Queen Isabella of Castile was a woman of faith, driven by God and her duty to her people. She made a vow unlike any other. She would not change her undergarments until the war for Spain was won. That war dragged on for 10 long years. Some say the story is true, others call it a myth. But what is certain is that her legend endures. Spain, in the late 1400s, was not yet a single nation. For more than 700 years, Christian and Muslim kingdoms had fought across the Iberian Peninsula. By the time Isabella was crowned Queen of Castile in 1474, only one Muslim state remained. Granada was a jewel of palaces, gardens, and mosques. Its white towers shone against the mountains, a reminder of centuries of Islamic art and science. But to Isabella and her husband Ferdinand, it was the last obstacle in their mission to unite Spain under Christianity. Isabella herself came from a divided and violent family. Her older brother Henry IV ruled Castile before her, but his reign was weak and full of scandals. Nobles questioned whether his daughter was truly his child. Civil war broke out, and rival claimants threatened Isabella's future. She grew up surrounded by plots, betrayals, and shifting alliances. At one point, she was kept under close watch so her marriage could be arranged for political advantage. She rejected matches that would weaken her and secretly arranged to marry Ferdinand of Aragon. Their marriage in 1469 shocked her brother and enraged rival factions. But it gave her the strongest ally she could ask for. When Henry died in 1474, Isabella claimed the throne. A bloody civil war followed, but she emerged victorious. Her union with Ferdinand created a powerful alliance between Castile and Aragon, setting the stage for Spain's unification. From her youth, she was deeply religious, convinced that God had chosen her for a sacred mission. So before her nobles and priests, she made a vow. She declared she would not change her linen garments until Granada fell. At first, it may have seemed like nothing more than a symbolic gesture, a way to share in the hardships of her soldiers. Vows like this were not unusual in the Middle Ages. Kings, knights, and even peasants would often promise to fast, wear the same clothes, or give up comforts until God granted victory. But coming from a queen, it carried special weight. Some soldiers felt inspired, believing God's favor truly rested with them. Others may have wondered if the queen's vow was extreme, a step into fanaticism. Over the years, rumors began to grow. Some said her skin became raw, her body filled with sores. Servants burned incense in the chambers to hide a smell that could not be hidden. Envoys from foreign courts claimed they felt sick in her presence. But who spread these rumors? They mostly came from Protestant writers and chroniclers decades later, eager to tarnish the reputation of Catholic Spain. Her allies, on the other hand, described her as a saintly ruler, willing to sacrifice her comfort for God's victory. The truth is impossible to confirm. Contemporary records are silent. The story only appears years later, shaped by politics and propaganda. But whether true or not, the vow became part of her legend. The war itself was long and brutal. In 1482, Ferdinand and Isabella declared open war against Granada. Their armies marched through mountain passes, besieging towns one by one. At Ronda in 1485, the Muslim defenders surrendered. At Malaga in 1487, the Christian forces took the city after fierce resistance. Many inhabitants were enslaved or executed. By 1489, the fortress of Baza fell, and Granada was isolated. The war dragged on for a decade, from 1482 to 1492. Isabella and Ferdinand were deeply involved in it. They didn't fight hand-to-hand like soldiers, but they often stayed in military camps, directing strategies, inspecting fortifications, and negotiating with commanders. Isabella even pawned her royal jewels to pay for cannons, weapons, and food. Without her financial sacrifices, the war might have collapsed. She visited hospitals where wounded soldiers lay and insisted on proper medical care. Unusual compassion for rulers at the time. This personal involvement made her beloved by her troops. But it also built her image as a relentless queen across Europe. Other monarchs began to see her not as a passive consort, but as a dangerous rival. The siege of Granada began in the spring of 1491. Granada's last ruler, Boabdil, held out as long as he could. Isabella and Ferdinand built a full military city outside Granada's walls, complete with streets, markets, and churches. It was a statement. They would not leave until Granada surrendered. Inside Granada, the defenders were trapped. Food and supplies could not get in. Hunger, disease, and despair spread through the city. For months, the population starved while the Christian army outside grew stronger. Finally, on January 2nd, 1492, Boabdil surrendered the keys of the Alhambra Palace. Granada was Christian at last. The Reconquista was complete. And so, the legend says, Isabella at last changed her linen. After 10 long years of war, the vow was fulfilled. But did she truly go all those years without changing? Most historians say no. They believe the story was an invention, a symbol of her determination, not a fact. Still, the tale was told across Europe. Some repeated it to praise her holy endurance. Others told it to mock her as fanatical and unclean. But this was only the beginning of Isabella's story. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like and subscribe, and comment to let me know where you're watching from. In March of 1492, they issued the Alhambra Decree. It ordered all Jews in Spain to convert to Christianity or leave the kingdom. Tens of thousands were forced into exile. Families fled with whatever they could carry. Those who stayed often faced the Inquisition, accused of secretly practicing Judaism. Fear and suspicion spread everywhere. The same year, Isabella agreed to fund Christopher Columbus. Columbus had been trying for years to win support for his voyage westward. He went to Portugal, England, and even wealthy nobles. But all had turned him away. When Granada finally fell, Isabella listened to him once more. Her advisors were divided. Some thought his idea was foolish. Others warned it was too risky. But Isabella believed in the chance to spread Christianity to new lands. She took the gamble. Part of the money came from royal funds, and some came from wealth seized from expelled Jewish families. Within months, Columbus set sail and returned claiming new lands across the Atlantic. It was the beginning of Spain's global empire. Isabella's vow, real or not, became part of her reputation. Catholic writers praised her as a saintly ruler whose devotion had brought victory. Statues and paintings showed her as the model of Christian womanhood. Schools and churches across Spain carried her name. But Protestant writers mocked her as stubborn and fanatical. They used the story to paint her as a queen ruled by superstition and pride. There was no solid proof either way. Her health, though, seemed steady compared to other royals of the time. She suffered no obvious deformities or madness like some European rulers. If anything, her endurance was remarkable, allowing her to outlive many rivals. The legend of the vow lived on, twisted to fit each side's purpose. Modern historians look back with mixed views. Some point out that vows of this kind were common in the Middle Ages. People often promised to wear simple clothing or avoid luxuries until God granted victory. Others see the story as symbolic. Whether or not she made the vow, Isabella's real actions showed the same relentless devotion. She believed her mission was to unite Spain under Christianity, and she shaped her rule to make it happen. Her faith gave her strength, but it also fueled intolerance, exile, and fear. In the end, the vow may not have been real, but its legend captures something deeper about Isabella herself. A queen who was both saint and tyrant. A woman who built an empire, but left scars that lasted for centuries. And a reminder that history is not only about facts, but about the myths that grow around them. So, did Queen Isabella really keep her vow? We may never know for sure, but what we do know is that in 1492, Spain changed forever. The fall of Granada, the expulsion of the Jews, the voyage across the Atlantic. And at the center of it all was a queen whose legend was as strange and unforgettable as the truth. History is filled with stories like this, where myth and fact blur into one. And sometimes the legend tells us just as much as the truth.